The Orlando Magic are back. Well, back at practice. They'll play again Friday. They got a little bit of time to get ready. And yes, there are a few updates to get to. What's in store for the rest of the Orlando Magic season coming up on today's Locked On Magic?
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is February 24th, 2022. My name is Philip Rossreich. I'm the expert and site editor over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, we'll go over kind of what's in store for the Orlando Magic the rest of the season, what the main storylines are going to be, what to expect, and what we're going to be watching here over the last 22 games of the season. We're almost got a quarter left of the season left. We're almost past the quarter pole. That's the correct usage, I believe. So we will get to all of that coming up today, plus the injury updates I promised before. Before we get to that, though, we want to thank you for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's the first thing you listen to in the morning, whether you listen to us right when we upload, any time during your day. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day. Remember to go back and listen to our Tankers Roundtable with Locked On NBA. That's on our feed, both on our podcast channel as well as our YouTube channel. Just go back to yesterday's episode to check that out. It was a great conversation that we had with the host of Locked On Rockets, Locked On Pacers, and Locked On Thunder. Remember, the Locked On Podcast Network, it's your team every day. Let's rip the Band-Aid right off and get some injury updates. RJ Hampton, full participant in practice. They'll see how he looks in practice today. I'll be heading down there in a couple hours. Look to see how he looks in practice today, and then make a determination on whether he will play Friday. My suspicion is that he is back and ready to go for Friday's game. Bo Wagner is still not participating in practice, so he does not look like he will be available. Again, they'll kind of see how he responds to the treatment, see if they can ramp him up a little bit in today's practice. But those aren't the guys you're here to hear me talk about. Those aren't the guys that are kind of the focus and really the main storyline here for the last 22 games of the season. All year, we have been waiting for the return of Markelle Fultz and the return of Jonathan Isaac. It's been a huge storyline. It's been a big focus, and everything's just kind of been up in limbo. From a contract perspective, obviously Jonathan Isaac and Markelle Fultz are hugely important players. They're ridiculously big because they're the biggest salaries on the team right now. Once Gary Harris comes off the books, those are your two biggest salaries on the team. Wendell Carter will kind of take, I think, the second spot with the first year of his new deal. But these are hugely important players. Two guys that are starter level players, obviously guys that the Magic have a lot of hopes in. And while it's not going to kill their future if they don't pan out because we're at such a beginning stage of this rebuild, it is vitally important that the Magic understand what they are, how they'll relate to the rest of the roster, and then begin to plan around whatever their future roles might be. Neither have obviously played this year, and it's just been kind of a waiting game where we haven't gotten a lot of information on when they will return. So here is the latest. Jamal Mosley confirmed again that Markelle Fultz is a full participant in practice. He's been practicing with the team to some degree since December. He's done some practice time in Lakeland as well, but we do not know how close he is to playing. Again, it kind of feels like it's let's see how he feels day to day and make determinations on whether he will continue to play. Mosley told Luke Hetrick of Spectrum Sports 360 that really the big thing with Fultz right now is just working on his conditioning, that, he likes the pace that he's playing with. It's just making sure that he can play at the level and play long enough at the NBA level and that he clears that last hurdle. It feels really, really close. I know that everyone's kind of said that, again, he's practiced with this team to some degree for 2 months now. It does feel really, really close with Markelle Fultz. It would not surprise me. Again, we've always kind of pegged these little homestands, these little moments where there's a few practice days as days that Markelle Fultz could come back. You're coming back from an All-Star break. You've got 3 straight home games. There's some practice time within. I think they practice today, obviously. I think they also practice Sunday. They have Saturday off after the game on Friday. They'll practice Sunday ahead of Monday's game. Then they do a little 2-game road trip, Toronto, Memphis, back-to-back, I believe. And then they're back home at the Amway Center for a little while. Again, we'll talk a little bit about the schedule coming up here. It does feel like this is a moment where Markelle Fultz could see his return, could get some kind of comfortable time on the court where the Magic can really monitor him. But it does feel close. I don't think the Magic will hold Markelle Fultz out the entire season. I think we do see Markelle Fultz at some point. And I do think we see him some point very, very soon. It would not surprise me if I had to practice here in a few hours and we get Markelle Fultz and it's announced that he will play or that the plan is for him to play. It would not surprise me if we show up to shoot around tomorrow morning and we get Markelle Fultz and they announce that he is playing. Would not surprise me if we don't hear anything and then all of a sudden at 3 p.m. on the injury report, Markelle Fultz is suddenly listed as questionable. Would not surprise me if the plan is that Markelle Fultz does not play this week and does not play this weekend or does not play for a little while longer. But it does feel like it's close. It does feel like it's really, really close. Jonathan Isaac, on the other hand, feels like he's a lot farther away. Mosley said in his press availability after Wednesday's practice that Isaac is still not doing contact. He's doing shooting drills. He's doing some kind of work with the coaches where maybe they're bumping up against him a little bit, but he's not playing kind of NBA level basketball or NBA contact drills or kind of controlled contact like Markelle Fultz was doing back in November and December. So Isaac does still seem like far away. Y'all know, if you listen to the show at all, you know I'm an optimist. I tend to believe the best things are going to happen, or that, there's not always nefarious workings going on underneath the surface. But it does start to feel like now that Jonathan Isaac probably can be held out for the whole season once again. And of course, that's disappointing. And that's really, really frustrating because the point of this season is growth and development. We don't care about the wins and losses. Like I care because that's kind of what drives me. But when we do our season recaps, when we look back at this season, we're not going to judge it based off the Magic's record. Personally, my personal goal, I don't think the Magic should finish with the worst record in the league. I think that they should I think that they are set up to get out of that running, and I think it's really important that they do. I'll get into that here in a bit. I'm going to talk about the injuries here in a sec. But Jeff Weltman said from the beginning of the season that one of his key goals, one of the big goals that the Magic had for this season, was to see these injured players reintegrate into the group and begin to understand how they're going to interact with this team and figure out how to move forward. Again, so much of the season is figuring out what you have and how do you build with it? How do you take that next step? How do you kind of consolidate these guys into an actual team, into a team that they want to develop, that they want to build around? That's kind of the big key. That's kind of the big question that the Magic are asking, or the Magic are trying to figure out this year. And frankly, they can't figure that out until they see Markelle Fultz and Jonathan Isaac. I will continue to say it is vitally important to see both on the floor, because as good as practice time is, it is not game time. It is not a game. It is not the feeling of a game. And, in practice, you kind of know what's coming. You run the same stuff. So when you go into a game, there's a little bit of unpredictability that you have to kind of be able to manage and problem solve. And to do that in real time is hugely important, is a very important thing for any player coming off a major injury to do. It's a huge, huge step. And I think it would not be beneficial for the Magic to skip that step or to not see that step in action this year, especially if next year, the Magic shouldn't have the worst record. I don't want to see the Magic contending for the worst record in the league. I don't necessarily need to see them make the playoffs, but they need to be picking up wins. They need to be kind of putting those pieces together a little bit more consistently than they have this season. So I think getting Markelle Fultz, getting Jonathan Isaac on the floor this season, even if it's for a couple of weeks, even if it's for a month, even if it's just this last quarter of the season, is still vitally, vitally important. And frankly, it's the big storyline of the rest of the season. By this point, we kind of know what Cole Anthony is. We've seen what his season is. We kind of understand where he has to continue to improve both this season and into the offseason. Jalen, I'll talk a little bit more about Jalen Suggs, but we kind of know what Jalen Suggs is and how he has to improve and how he has to get better and kind of progress along his path. We've seen a lot of Franz Wagner, and we want to kind of see those guys continue to expand their roles and expand their responsibilities. But by this point of the season, you know what guys are, at least for this season. And I think there's still some experimenting that needs to go on and still some things that need to happen. But a lot of that is play Isaac and Fultz with them. What does this group look like with those two guys in there? Isaac and Fultz have been the big story for the Magic all season. They've been the big story for the Magic. They're going to be the big story for the Magic over these final 20 plus games. And And it's vitally important that the Magic see what these guys can do. Again, it feels like that Fultz is very, very close. To be perfectly frank, it feels like he is very, 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 very close. And that's my gut reaction. Honestly, like my prediction, I think he plays Friday. I think we're going to see him on the floor here very, very soon. But that's just a guess. And with the Magic this year, with the injuries, it's anybody's guess. I'll talk about the schedule, what the Magic are going to see schedule-wise, and why it's set up for them to actually finish the season kind of strong. We'll get to that coming up here in just a minute. But first, football might be over for the season, but basketball is in full steam for both pro and college hoops. From all the latest odds, totals, player performance props to where the next fired coach is going to land, BetOnline.net is the number one spot for all your sports betting needs. BetOnline remains the best spot for all of your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season. And it's not just basketball. BetOnline.net is your source for hockey, boxing, and UFC odds, coverage, and information. Head to the website today or use your mobile devices to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. We want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us. We truly appreciate you tuning in every single day to the Locked On Magic podcast. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast. The NBA is back in action tonight, and the Locked On Now has nightly recaps of every NBA game with analysis from our local experts. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. So I've been telling everyone this. I've been warning all the fans this. Don't send me tank gifs. Tank gifs are an automatic mute. I'm not about that game. The Magic have been waiting for this part of the schedule. If you go back and listen to our podcast in August when the schedule came out, I told everyone the Magic schedule after the All-Star break is extremely manageable. Not easy. There's no such thing as an easy schedule in the NBA, and there's no such thing as an easy schedule in the NBA when you have the worst record in the league. But it is manageable. And I think a big factor, a big key for the Orlando Magic moving forward and moving into the rest of the season is the fact that there is an opportunity here for Orlando to pick up wins. There is an opportunity here for Orlando to take a really important step, to take a big step forward here. And it's frankly it's going to be really enticing to see what the Magic do with this opportunity. Orlando plays 15 of their final 22 games at the Amway Center. Just think about that. 15 of 22 games at the Amway Center. Not only that, they don't play a road trip the rest of the season longer than 2 games. They have a few 2-game road trips spotted here and there. One does come next weekend, an unscheduled one because of the postponed game in Toronto. But the Magic will play 15 of 22 remaining games at home. The Magic are one of 8 teams that have played 60 games so far this season. They're among playing the most games so far. They've also played 26 home games, the fewest in the league. So there are a lot of games at the Amway Center to come, and that does include marquee matchups against the Phoenix Suns, the Golden State Warriors. There are some tough games in there. Cleveland still has to come to Orlando, I believe. There are some big games still and some tough games coming. But according to Tankathon and opponent win percentage, the Magic have the 10th easiest schedule remaining. Only the Indiana Pacers, one of our friends in the Locked On NBA Takers group, only the Indiana Pacers have a quote-unquote weaker schedule, and they play the Magic twice. The Magic play the Pacers twice, obviously, next week. Only the Pacers of that tanking group have a easier schedule. That was me doing air quotes. Easier schedule than the Orlando Magic. Then you take into consideration that the Magic probably had their best run of the season during that 5-game homestand when they went 3-2. In late January, they not only kind of cemented what was a really strong defensive showing where they finished 7th in the league in defensive rating in January, they played really well. They beat the Chicago Bulls. They beat the Dallas Mavericks. And yes, Dallas didn't, of course, stop Porzingis. They don't have him now anyway. The Bulls didn't have, I believe Zach LaVine missed those games, but the Magic still got some really nice wins on that homestand. They played tough against the Los Angeles Lakers. Well, the other loss was a game against the LA Clippers. They probably should have won. There were good opportunities to get wins and a really strong showing for the Magic on that homestand. This last 22 games, it's not going to be quite like that, but it's going to feel like an extended version of that, where Orlando did a lot of really, really good things and were certainly capable of picking up wins. I'm not going to sit here and say Orlando is going to go gangbusters and finish these last 22 games like 16-6. I don't believe that. I don't believe they're going to finish these last 22 games at like 11-11. I don't think they're going to play at a 500 level. But what we do need to see is we need to see continued progress. We need to see the team continue to cement an identity, cement who they want to be, the kind of style offensively and defensively they want to play. The defense came in January when they were at home. And I think being at home, being able to practice a little bit more, as long as this team stays together, as long as this team stays focused, as long as this team doesn't sit guys who are actually healthy, there's going to be an opportunity to see this growth, to see this team kind of expand and build itself. The other part of this, of course, is the offense. And lately we've seen the offense kind of pick up its pace. Orlando has indeed climbed into the top 10 in possessions per 48 minutes. That does not necessarily mean they're the ones controlling the pace, but if you watch Orlando, they are playing at a faster pace. They are trying to get the ball up the floor more. They are trying to pick up their pace. They are trying to kind of pick up their possession numbers a little bit. Some of that is Orlando's doing. Some of that is also the turnovers that come with that and teams running back on them the other way, where Orlando's been typically pretty good in transition, but of late, the turnovers have been up. The Magic have struggled a little bit getting back in transition, getting their defense set. That's hurt their defensive numbers, which has been abysmal in February. There's a lot of balance that has to come for this young team and a lot of things that this young team still has to develop. But they've shown in the past that they can develop that. They can build some consistency at home. So again, I'm not here saying the Orlando Magic are about to go 11-11, finish the season so strong that they ruin some lottery chances. I'm not here to say that. I still think the Magic will finish with one of the 3 worst records in the league. I still think the Magic will have top odds to win the lottery. Whether they win it is a freaking coin flip. I don't freak out about that stuff. We'll talk more lottery. We'll talk more draft later, but I'm not here to say the Magic are going to intentionally do anything. Now, again, guys get hurt. Guys have little nicks. Maybe they're held out a little bit longer. I have no problem with that. There's no reason to do. There's no reason to push guys if they're not 100% healthy. But at the same time, we still need to see this team grow. We still need to see this team develop. We still need to see this team develop patterns and habits that will carry over to next season when there will be not a ton of winning pressure, but a little bit more winning pressure and a little bit more desire to see the team's record reflect the growth that we're seeing on the floor. Being at home so much is going to give the team the opportunity to do that. And so, like I said, all season long, this is the Magic's opportunity. This is where the Magic are probably going to win a little bit more than you expect and build some momentum toward the offseason, which is, I think, what we all want to see. One guy that has to build that momentum more than any other is Jalen Suggs. We'll talk about the opportunity in front of him coming up here in just a moment. But first, this episode is brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now possible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. So I endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry. You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. So save time and money when using Rock Auto. Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for more than 20 years, and their prices are reliably low for every customer. They have everything you can need, from brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpet. So go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto part needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in there. How did you hear about us box? So they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need at rockauto.com. So, the Orlando Magic have obviously seen a ton of player growth, a ton of player development over the course of the season. They've obviously seen guys kind of take steps up. And I think what a lot of the end of the season is about, it's really kind of cementing the kind of team they want to be. Building positive momentum toward the offseason, which is and isn't a thing. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's everything, but building some positive momentum toward the offseason, kind of figuring out what roles guys ultimately need to play moving forward, not just for this year, but really moving into next season. Again, that's why it's so important that Markelle Fultz and Jonathan Isaac play, just so we could see what this team looks like and how Jonathan Isaac interacts with Franz Wagner, how Markelle Fultz interacts with Jalen Suggs. But the one guy I think we do need to see a really strong finish and kind of see the continued progression and growth that we've seen over the last few weeks is from Jalen Suggs. At this point, yes, Franz Wagner needs the ball more. It's a point that I made on LondonMagicDaily.com. It's a common gripe among Magic fans. Franz Wagner should be a bigger part of the offense. The Magic need to make sure they keep Franz Wagner involved. There are too many games where he goes invisible for long stretches. He's a very vital part of this offense. Jalen Suggs is someone who has to continue growing and kind of reclaiming what a lot of us thought he could be when the Magic drafted him. I think that the game is starting to slow down for him. Suggs plays very fast. He plays very physical. He's head on. He's going to duck. He's going to put his head down and get to the paint. That much is abundantly clear. It is so clear that that's something the Magic want. And that's something that Suggs wants to do. It's kind of in his nature to play this kind of running back style, not quite Steve Francis tucking the ball in and laying it up like he used to, but just burrow into the lane and try and finish at the rim. And he's gotten better at that. His shooting percentage within 10 feet has improved significantly since the injury. I think he's up around 56, 57% shooting within 10 feet since coming back from the thumb injury. That enabled him to slow down a little bit, and it's obviously been good for him. Suggs is starting to take more command of the offense. He is taking the ball and running and is so good at pushing the pace and so good at getting up the floor. And really what the rest of the season is about is, can we get the shooting percentage up a little bit? Can we get him to slow down and continue to improve shooting at the rim? Can he really kind of dictate the pace of the game for the Orlando Magic? Those are the big questions that the Magic are trying to answer, because we know his defense is pretty solid. We know he's going to be a hard-nosed defender. We know that in transition, he's going to be really good. And he's going to be able to get to the basket. The question then is, can he make plays off the bounce? Can he make plays passing out to shooters? Can he make plays in the half court? Can he harness that speed, control his speed to get where he wants to go in the half court? We all believe that Suggs was the star that this team needed. When the Magic drafted him, not that Scotty Barnes is a bad player, but it felt like a lifeline. It felt like this is the guy that the Magic needed. This is the guy that the Magic truly wanted to get. And now it's about seeing all those pieces come together. So much about what the rest of the season is going to be about is less about seeing individual players improve, but seeing them tie the whole thing together more consistently. Because we see pockets of it. Jalen Suggs has been really good in pockets. Franz Wagner has been really good in pockets. Cole Anthony had the really strong start to the season and has looked that way in moments this year. Wendell Carter will be the first to admit that he struggles with his consistency and his energy. And that's been something he's had to work on, and he's slowly improved on as the season's gone on. We've seen these little bits and pieces from the Magic young players, and really what this season has to be about the rest of the way is beginning to figure out how we tie those together, how we make all those individual moments of brilliance work more consistently and work together to deliver wins. Don't tell me winning's not important. Don't tell me that the Magic should only be angling for ping pong balls and lottery picks. They've done that work already. They're going to be one of the worst teams in the league. What they have to begin to learn to do is learn how to win, learn how to put all those pieces together, learn how each individual plays a role and a part in helping the team win, and figuring out the style that they need to play to get the most out of these players. As many of us suspected at the beginning of the season, it's about high-pressure defense, which this team has been super inconsistent about. It's about getting out in transition, which, again, this team has been inconsistent and a little inefficient at as well. And it's about kind of playing at a high-energy pace. And, I give Jamal Mosley a lot of credit. I give these guys a lot of credit. They have stuck to it. They believe in what they're trying to do. They're still trying to figure out how to do it consistently. We're seeing some of it happen here and there a lot more consistently. Again, it's just about tying everything together and helping it become something that can be a little bit more conducive toward winning, because at the end of the day, that's what this is about. Jalen Suggs' development is going to be a big part of that when the Magic get to it. That's all I have for today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, follow us on Twitter at Locked On Magic. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all the fun places to download podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. You can find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_MD. And of course, for the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can follow us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. Now that you're done listening to us, be sure to check out the Locked On NBA podcast. Locked On experts covering the biggest stories around the NBA every Monday through Friday in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. For Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.